Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Great to have you in our YouTube stream. And today we offer an additional session of SAP Security webcast series. Today we will talk about cybersecurity for hybrid SAP landscapes. For this session, apart from SAP, we have partner Fortinet on board. Fortinet and SAP will outline what SAP Basis Teams must know about SAP protection, as well as how to identify and automatically respond on SAP incidents using SAP Enterprise Threat Detection in combination with FortiSOAR. SOAR stands for is security orchestration and automated response. Is a special solution of Fortinet. Our expert speakers for today are Arndt Linkscheid, who is solution owner of SAP GRC and cybersecurity at SAP, although as Fortinet colleagues Matthias Zwickler, who is head of global SAP sales, and Julian Pettersson, who is Global SAP Architect at Fortinet. My name is Larissa Brinkmann from the SAP Global User Groups organization, and I'm your host for today. We kindly ask you to post your questions in the live chat, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. The replay will be available under the same link immediately after the session. With this, I wish you great interaction and kindly ask Matthias to take over.
Larissa, thank you very much. It's great to be here, and thanks to you and Arndt for the invitation. So let's get started. I think we have some cameras on, so we just wanted to say hi. We're gonna switch these off for the presentation, so that you can focus on the content and on the audio that we are actually talking. So let me just quickly do that. So we have prepared an agenda for you, which I would like to quickly go over. So we start with a quick introduction and an overview, which we almost completed. I've put together just a few slides regarding Fortinet and a corporate overview. And then we dive briefly into the Fortinet solutions for SAP outside of the SOAR solution that we are then talking about in specific detail. So this definitely is the main focus of our presentation, followed by actually a demo. So what happens? Oh no, someone breached SAP. So someone is creating security incidents, or is doing something that is creating security incidents. And how do you actually react on these? How you detect them? How you react on these incidents? This is what we are going to show here and demonstrate in a live example. We then close with a Q&A and hope you have a bunch of questions in the chat or either live for us at the end of the session. So let's get started. So who is Fortinet? Fortinet really is the #1 cybersecurity enterprise in the market. We are in business for over 20 years, and last calendar year, which is also our fiscal year in 2021, we drove more than $4 billion of revenue. We have various products. I simply mentioned that they are part of an integrated fabric, and you will hear a little bit about that in just a second. Our company is headquartered in the US, specifically in Sunnyvale, very close by Apple's headquarter, actually. I believe by now we already have more than 12,000 employees. We have a whole lot of customers also worldwide, almost the same amount as SAP actually. And you can see also a little bit the split between software and hardware that we're actually doing from an engineering perspective. We are a very strong, innovative company. You can see that by the amount of patents that we hold, across the world. We're actually outnumbering, our competitors by the amount of patents big time. We have a bunch of development centers, of course, also in EMEA, but also in Asia, and various centers of excellence where we are looking forward to host you as a customer together with SAP. The core of Fortinet really is the Fortinet security fabric. So the security fabric is based on a mesh architecture, similar to what Gartner recently announced. And I refer to it to SAP folks like you guys often as something that is really easily to compare to SAP NetWeaver. SAP NetWeaver is the underlying platform for all SAP solutions, and this Fortinet security fabric is the underlying platform for all of Fortinet's security products, which, as you may be able to see, are dedicated to various security organizations in an enterprise. So, for example, for network operations or security operations, for cloud security, or even for secure networking, which we are as a company actually converging, right? Networking and security. So we are the driver of converging these technology, technology trends, you can say, are parts. We also have zero trust access solutions, and all of these solutions underlie the FortiOS, the Fortinet operating system, which is really part of every Fortinet product, which makes the products easy to communicate with each other. And of course, these products are not only available as software or in the cloud, but also in containers or even in physical appliances. So let's take a look at the Fortinet solutions for SAP. And I thought we explain them here based on a number of use cases. So there's multiple ways to secure SAP, as all the SAP experts know. There has been SAP security for a long time, but today's threats, come from a different area, from the cyberspace. And SAP systems need to be protected from these cyber threats as well. And this is what we are going to focus on, especially when SAP systems are moving to the cloud. Then the entire digital attack surface is changing and needs to be expanded or broadened to the cloud. And here we're driving a bunch of solutions, respectively use cases. So one, for example, is intrusion prevention or content inspection. Intrusion prevention, for example, helps to identify network packets on the network and figure out if they belong to SAP or not, or anything else. And if they belong to SAP, we would look at this packet and we would be able to identify if this network request is trying to utilize a vulnerability within an SAP system. And if it does, we would be able to block that or redirect this attack. So this is just one part of the solution, or one part of the one potential use case. Why would you need that? Well, you would like to protect your SAP systems, right? And you would want to ensure that threats are not expanding in the SAP landscape. Another one is SAP Application Protection. So here we are able to protect the web-based SAP traffic. So if customers have deployed Fiori apps, for example, then these apps need to be used with a browser and not with a traditional old-fashioned kind of SAP GUI. And we are able to protect that traffic specifically, and with that also here in this case protect the SAP application servers that drive these Fiori apps. Another use case that we're helping to protect in SAP environments is web protection through API access. A lot of data is exchanged by SAP APIs and from systems to systems, not from users. And we can specifically protect these SAP APIs with one of our solutions. So these are really the base protection solutions that we recommend each and every SAP customer is actually deploying. So recently we also introduced SAP decoys, which help to undertake threat hunting. So these decoys look like a very thin SAP systems and are focused around the common threat vectors in SAP landscapes, and you can use them to basically attract threat actors so that they don't break into your production SAP systems, for example. We're also able to do vulnerability scans of SAP systems with parts of our solutions, as well as protect and monitor usage of SAP's software as a service solutions, such as, for example, SuccessFactors. And we are also able to create automated reactions, automated responses, specifically also in SAP environments. And this is what the presentation and the demonstration today here is all about. So just stay tuned for another minute. So as you can see, we drive true SAP integration here between Fortinet and the SAP stack. The core really is that we can make the SAP network traffic visible, and with that protect from all sorts of all sorts of threats, even also from cyber threats. And also as an info point here, our enterprise is having an organization which is called FortiGuard Labs. FortiGuard Labs is a well-known organization, in the industry that is identifying all sorts of incidents, not just SAP. But this organization, part of our company, part of Fortinet, is also doing zero-day vulnerability research around the SAP products, and we are also publishing those. So I did mention today, earlier, sorry, that we have a bunch of use cases here, which also, of course, are available on the cloud with, at the same time, these products standing behind the various use cases you've just learned about. And of course, they are also available on all of the cloud providers as well, in case you are moving to the cloud. So with that, that was just a short overview of Fortinet solutions for SAP. And now I would like to kick off the section where we talk about SAP Enterprise Threat Detection and FortiSOAR. And for that, I would like to hand over to Arndt. Arndt, please.
Yes, excellent. Thank you, Matthias, and thanks for the introduction here. And yeah, I would like to send out a warm welcome to everybody who's joining this session here as well, or later on having a look at this stream here. And yes, as Matthias already mentioned, one of the core cybersecurity or security products from SAP, of course, is SAP Enterprise Threat Detection. which is already quite well known actually in the market, but yeah, it helps sometimes to repeat the information so everybody is aware of what we can do with SAP Enterprise Threat Detection and where we can then and how we can then collaborate with the FortiSOAR solution, for example. So in general, the definition of SAP Enterprise Threat Detection is pretty simple. It provides visibility into suspicious user events, behavior of users, and into all types of anomalies that can happen within an SAP business application to see any types of threats that are happening inside of a business or such a business application, to just simply detect and stop such types of security breaches in real time. So Enterprise Threat Detection actually was built more than 7 years back, completely based on HANA database technology, consuming all different types of events coming from the SAP environment. So really talking about not these short events coming from hubs, routers, switches, and perimeter security, those events that are being written by such huge applications like SAP are much more richer in information, so they're much bigger as well in yeah, from the size, from a pure size perspective, but as well very rich in information about what is happening with inside of the application. And this is the reason why we do need something or an additional product to a SIEM solution here as well, to understand the business context behind of what a hacker has been doing there, because we're not really focusing on that type of denial of services attack. So we're really looking at the availability and the integrity of an SAP environment. Since when I would try to hack an SAP environment, the data that is inside of an SAP system is much more worthful for me. So to download the data, to have a look at the IP, have a look at sensitive information, HR information, sales information, product information of an organization. Or on the other hand, I can start tampering really with business processes in an SAP environment. Just imagine I could tamper with some text configuration in an SAP system that would lead to a false financial statement of an organization by the end of the year, and nobody would recognize it probably when I fine-tune these modifications well enough. But of course, it is as well any types of bigger and more easier to detect modifications that can happen here as well to the standard configuration of the system and to any other types of security settings. So what we have with Enterprise Threat Detection is actually a complete user behavior analysis solutions where we can do forensics, where we can do threat modeling, where we can do threat hunting, where we have the anomaly detection, where we have artificial intelligence being implemented as well, where we can create own patterns based on customer demands with a no-code approach, and where we can store as well all audit relevant information or all events coming from the SAP environment in our HANA database. So we ship with quite a huge amount of standard use cases. That's more than 150 standard use cases, but that number multiplies with the positive and negative lists that we as well deliver with those use cases. We do have monthly updates to the use cases as well according to the SAP patch days, as well promoting the SAP patch day or the SAP patches in a way that we have a security rating for all the systems, and that's where we calculate in as well the security patch status in terms of that we can display, for example, the CVSS score of a missing security vulnerability patch here in Enterprise Threat Detection as well. And as I already mentioned, we're collecting and storing all audit relevant information, have gathered more than 400 SAP customers for this product already worldwide. And yeah, that's mainly the scope of Enterprise Threat Detection. what we do in addition is always combine enterprise threat detection with the standard SIEM solution. Could be, for example, FortiSIEM here, for example, but we collaborate here with other vendors as well, like Splunk, Curator, ArcSight. So we can then take the alerts that we have in enterprise threat detection and forward them to the third-party SIEM solution as soon as we do have a proper real alert detected within enterprise threat detection. So that's where we bridge the gap between the security operations center, which usually does not have a clue about SAP and SAP terms, and the cybersecurity operations. In addition to the connection to the SIEM solutions, we have then, in the collaboration together with Fortinet, created the connection to their FortiSOAR solution. And the FortiSOAR solution then enables us to have automated responses, not only in the IT infrastructure layer, in the perimeter security, but now we can also trigger automated reactions with inside of the SAP application. So meaning maybe send the user a pop-up, hey, your behavior is being monitored, or terminate a session, withdraw user authorizations, and so on and so forth. And the reason why we, SAP, did not create an own SOAR solution is actually that we not only want to trigger a reaction with inside of the SAP system, we simultaneously would like to block the IP address, for example, on the firewall, or withdraw the user or block the user within the LDAP services as well of an organization. So this has to be a more broader approach here, and that's what we've actually done here together with Fortinet or FortiSOAR in that case, or in particular. And with that, I would actually like to hand it over back to Matthias.
Arndt, thank you very much for the explanation. How do we do that? So as Arndt already mentioned, we're doing this with FortiSOAR. And FortiSOAR stands for Security, Orchestration, and Automated Response. FortiSOAR is, by the way, you can see the user interface of FortiSOAR here on the bottom left side. And FortiSOAR is basically an incident response management solution, which helps to collaborate across security teams in case of any sorts of incidents, but specifically, of course, also with SAP incidents. And it helps to orchestrate these automations, and with that react much quicker on these incidents. So you can basically save time. The dwell time to stop the kill chain of an attacker is much reduced, and this is something that we're supporting here with FortiSOAR and our integration into SAP ETD as well as into SAP. So FortiSOAR has a lot of connectors. So today we're already shipping more than 450 connectors. So as I mentioned, not only SAP is supported, but really the entire infrastructure that you can think of, but also many other applications are included as connectors within FortiSOAR. And we also ship, like SAP ETD, a number of playbooks out of the box that you get with it, with that license, basically. So specifically for SAP, we have created 2 connectors which are able to trigger these actions within the SAP system, so within the application, as Arndt mentioned. I trust that you believe us that we can trigger actions on the infrastructure side. So the SAP RFC connector, which we created, helps to trigger modules inside SAP to which at the end of the day then trigger any programs or pop-ups or whatsoever. You will see that in just a second. The other connector is the ETD connector, which helps to make FortiSOAR know about security incidents that SAP ETD identifies. So once these security incidents from ETD are, being identified, we can kick off certain actions and certain playbooks, right, which then trigger these actions. So it helps really to very efficiently create reactions on such incidents, and that helps you to increase the security of your SAP systems, respectively, your entire SAP Enterprise Landscapes. So what are, typical threats or incidents that could be identified? So I just listed here a few of them for you, but one is, for example, which we're actually showing in the demo, that an SAP user is looking or trying to modify some critical data in an SAP system. So obviously this might not be requested or wanted, and this would create a security incident upon which a reaction is required. Another example would be, for example, a ransomware attack. I just mentioned it because it's in everyone's ears and eyes and words these days, and it happens actually a lot. Even just yesterday, again, I heard that one of our company's enterprises here close by where I live has been affected, and for months they don't know when they become operational again. So we can detect that and then create action on that. Another one would be a brute force attack on an SAP system from a compromised internal computer, like a PC or laptop or whatever. Or, as I mentioned also before, there's a lot of communication and data also available through SAP APIs, which could be published, not only to the intranet but also to the internet, and cyber attacks could happen against these APIs. So this is just a high-level overview of use cases that could happen. So because ransomware is so prominent these days, I'm just presenting here to you what would happen or how we could react on a ransomware attack in an SAP environment. And here's basically a diagram that shows what would happen and how we would use our SAP connectors in this case. So typically the ransomware is kicking off on some client, and we have software that monitors the client and would detect the spread of ransomware on this client. This information is communicated to FortiSIEM or any other SIEM. It doesn't have to be FortiSIEM. And then this information about the spread is passed on via the FortiSIEM, FortiSOAR connector. They're all part of the Fortinet security fabric. Is passed on to SOAR, which can then kick off a playbook, which, for example, says, isolate everything on ransomware access. And what would happen here is FortiSOAR, for example, would use our infrastructure connector into the FortiGate, the firewall, and isolate this client so that it doesn't, it's not able anymore to spread the ransomware across the network. So the client is isolated. And the second action that FortiSOAR could take is use the SAP RFC connector to terminate the SAP user session so that ransomware would not be able to get into any SAP system or into the SAP landscape, as an example. So with that, the spreading of ransomware could be stopped and really only limited to the client that actually, was affected and clicked on that link or on a specific attachment in an email. So this is one example. And the second example is actually what we are showing today here as a demo. And I would like to ask Julian to take over from here and explain what we're going to see in a second.
Thank you, Matthias. So you should now see my screen. Yes. So what we want to show, or what I want to demonstrate together with Arndt later on, is a quick demonstration how you can combine FortiSOAR and for SAP ETD to respond to emergencies or security incidents from an SAP system, but also leverage that. For example, think about your SOC team in your security operations center. How often do they have the knowledge around SAP, and how do they know how to respond to that certain critical business application? And exactly with that, we have these easy playbooks and connectors which can help you there. And what we will show you is that something happening in the SAP system, which gets its way to SAP ETD, and SAP ETD correlates the information and notice something really weird is going on here. And it's worth to raise an alert here because something critical is going on. These alerts then will be parsed. Yes.
Julian, you do not share your screen. Maybe you can share your screen so we can see what you are talking about. Sorry.
Why is it not sharing? Can you see it now?
Example, SAP security event Triage.
Yeah,
okay.
That's right. I'm talking about
Excellent.
that. So, and based on FortiSOAR is receiving that alert, we will continue taking action on a certain playbook to handle according these incidents, so that we have our operational procedure, what to do next and how to proceed. Arndt, what about demonstrating that with our short video clip we made? Ready?
Yes, sure. Julian, thanks for handing this over and handling the video here. So what we see here, first of all, in the video is that we already are logged on to an SAP ECC or S4 system. That's the older UI, but that would work for UI5 as well, pretty much the same way. We are logged onto the system with a high privileged user. So in our case, maybe it is a firefighter, but we as well know that most of the successful hacks are being executed with high privileged users. So we just simply have a high privileged user here for this scenario, which maybe fights the fire in the SAP environment, but then as well has access to other transactions within the SAP environment as well. And that's where we just simply looked up a HR transaction in our system, which is transaction PA30, that displays actually the HR master data. And that's what we can else see then or access is the bank information, for example, the address information of our Henry, the CEO, and we can as well have a look at the payment of Henry, the CEO. So this is actually already a threat happening inside of an SAP environment. Maybe you just quickly stop here. And when looking at this, when only looking at the screens, actually already a kind of a download happens here with inside of the SAP environment. Julian, can you just quickly go back a few seconds?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Maybe you pause there for a second. And Yeah, so actually only the looking at sensitive information is already kind of a download in an SAP system. Don't even have to touch or change the information here as well. So that is the most impactless data download that we can have, just spy out information while looking up certain transactions. What we can then already see behind the scenes with Enterprise Threat Detection, can you now start the video again? Sorry. And is that we've already recognized 3 threats during the past hour, for example. And when we go into that graphical view here, we can see already actually that attack cluster, where we can see which system is being attacked, what client is, for example, being attacked, and what pattern or what use case is behind that type of attack. And that was the spy out of a critical person's ID information. And then we do see as well the amount of alerts, and we do see as well from which terminal this was being executed. When we then follow up into the listed details here, we get all the event details. We can have a look at the event details, where we can get a more decent description what has happened in our SAP environment. I earlier on said we're building the bridge between the Security Operations Center and SAP. So that's something what a person from a Security Operations Center would understand. This is the log type that we're using for this scenario. And then passing this information as well over to the FortiSOAR solution. And while that, I pass over to Julian, so he can explain us a little bit better what we do see here in the FortiSOAR now.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm noticing that you're more in the SAP security team and I'm more in the network operations security team. It's quite a good role play, I have to say. So back in the network operations security team, we are in FortiSOAR. And what happens now within FortiSOAR? Just quite simple one. So within FortiSOAR, we have these 2 connectors Matthias already talked to you about. And these 2 connectors, first of all, we have the SAP ETD connector, which allows us to parse information from SAP ETD, in this case, the alerts and events, into FortiSOAR. But we also want to take action on them. And for that, we have the native RFC implementation within an SAP RFC connector, which allows us to take these actions on. And when we now move on to the alert section within FortiSOAR and searching for specially found HR alert, we can see all the same information like we got from the SAP ETD, and the same information you already saw there before. So we have exactly the same database, the same information, and everything is there already right here for the network security operations team. Also the correlating events and everything which is necessary. And just for demonstration, we will now execute some playbooks. So a playbook at the end is nothing else than a strict defined standard operational procedure, which allows you, if my video doesn't jump away, to basically follow or have a predefined steps which needs to be taken to remediate this action or that incident, for example. And when we now go over to these playbooks, we can, for example, trigger a playbook which allows us to send a notification to a user, which then will be, for example, notified, hey, you're doing something suspicious. Let's stop what you're doing and maybe circle back. You're here on a very thin ice. That's what we do. For that, to execute a playbook, we again select our HR alert in that case and run that playbook. You can see it's just a very simple step, just one step. And now what happens on your side, Arne?
Yeah, what happens on my side, maybe you stop the video right away, is what we see in the screen, that simply an SAP GUI pop-up is being triggered. In this case, that informs the user, hey, you're doing something suspicious here. We are monitoring you while doing that. If I'm fighting the fire in the SAP system and everything is okay with me, then I'm fine with this hint here, but when you keep on running the video now, Julian, please. I just keep on doing some suspicious things and not only start spying out information. Now I will even go further and start changing information within the HR, my salary information. And then we jump back to the FortiSOAR and Julian solution.
So, and now what we have is we have a user, in that case, for example, Ant, who doesn't want to stop because he got a notification, even it brings him some more fire to continue. And now let's change quickly the data and go out here and start. So I'm ready for the weekend, right? So what we now need to do is we set the first stage, just a reminder. So next stage, what we want to do is, okay, we need to stop that attack. We need to immediately stop what the attacker is trying to do. And for that, I've prepared a second playbook, which basically will do nothing else than just end the user session. Just lock that user out from his active session. For that, we get the session information, select just only that certain session from that certain terminal, and kick out that user of the SAP system. You can see, quickly done. And hey, Arndt, how is it going? How are your changes ongoing?
Yeah, my change is ongoing, but the next step you will see here is exactly what is happening to the user. The system session is going to be terminated. And the screen will turn black now because I'm locked out of the SAP system. Session terminated.
So,
Julian.
and that was just a very basic example what you can do. There are even more possible scenarios. Again, what we showed you is this very simple attack vector that someone is doing something, ETD recognizes it and alerting it, and we just, for example, send that pop-up or lock out that user from the SAP system. But what else could be happening with these playbooks, as we have these broad integrations? We could, for example, now quarantine the client, which the attacker was logged on. We can quarantine it on the firewall. Even we can, for example, lock that Windows Active Directory user account directly within the Active Directory and send out an email, for example, to the manager and says, hey, that user was locked because of very suspicious activity. All within these one playbook steps. An alternative example I provided here is how such a playbook could look like. That's, by the way, a real playbook I created a couple of weeks ago, especially for SAP use case. In that case, we started manually, but it could be also fully automatically started. So if there is an alert happening coming from SAP ETD, then this playbook gets started. And in that case, as we started manually, we need to input, for example, certain information like which username, what is the terminal IP address where you want to take some action on. And then we are getting this user information from our SAP system. You could also, for example, select here which SAP system is used. And then you can decide as a SOC employee or a member of the SOC security team, how do you want to proceed? Do you, first of all, want just only send a notification? Or maybe you want to send a notification, then directly lock the user account. Or even you want to escalate further, just send a notification and directly lock the user account and end out that user session. So that user can never log in again until he, for example, reaches out to the support center and get his user unlocked. These could be certain examples, for example, for that. But what is also very interesting on that is you can see how pretty structured and easy you can build these playbooks. Even, for example, it provides the ability and also makes it easy for non-SAP security people or members of the direct SAP security team to take action on security incidents directly, quickly, and act in an emergency case always in the same structure, and don't, for example, forget any step or forget something which could then lead to maybe the attacker could recompromise a machine or something like that. That's just an example. There are many more ideas and ways how this could be implemented. It's a bit up to you what you can imagine in that case. But just to bring that back to a conclusion, Matthias, may I give it back to you?
Matthias might be on mute.
You're right. Yes, sorry. Yes, thank you, Arndt. Thank you, Julian. So I'll be more careful next time when I work in SAP systems and look at some, confidential data, as I may be monitored here and maybe watched, right, by ETD and by FortiSOAR. So just to conclude here, right, SAP systems obviously are mission critical. So therefore, security is key, and security failures can actually lead to business disruption, which we all would like to avoid. And as we also learned, SAP ETD identifies and correlates these SAP security incidents, upon which Fortinet can actually take action with the FortiSOAR tool as part of the security fabric. And together, as you can see on the last one, Fortinet and SAP with SAP ETD, we can provide better or increased security for the entire SAP Enterprise Landscapes. So I hope that you agree with these conclusions, but I'm sure you may have questions. So for these questions, maybe we can go to the next slide. And there are a couple of links that you can click on when you download the presentation, the slides of this session here today. I would also like to point to the last click here to review the joint webinar with SAP item. That is another webinar we did together with Arndt and Michael, who's also here on the chat, as well as a couple of others, to put this into even more perspective. Yeah, and with that, let's conclude here and start with the Q&A. So
first of all, thank you very much, Matthias, Julian, and Arndt, for your presentation and for the great demo. It was really very interesting to see what kind of action you can do in the system and what might be a response. With this, I think, again, to all the viewers of our session, please feel free to put your questions in the chat. And the first question that we have in the chat is, which among these products can be used for BTP-based microservices? And this question came up after the introduction of Matthias of all the services around SAP. So maybe you can take over this question.
yes, so Julian, maybe you can add, but you can certainly leverage the intrusion prevention content inspection solution, which is based on the FortiGate firewall. So you can and you actually should use that to protect any sorts of communication. But you can also leverage the web-based application protection solution, which is based on another product of ours, FortiWeb, respectively FortiADC, to protect web application traffic. Julian, would you like to add anything? Of course, FortiSOAR is also possible. But Julian, maybe you can add anything here as well.
Yeah, one more thing could be indeed interesting if we talk about, for example, about the identity and authentication service, which could be used for single sign-on solutions to your microservices running on SAP Cloud. I mean, you want to monitor who's accessing it, is it legitimate? And for example, FortiCascade can help you there. Exactly, especially providing their monitoring and helping you to have a better visibility what's going on. And for example, if someone tries to log in today from the US and 20 minutes later from Europe, I mean, congratulations, that was a quite fast flight, but it's a bit more impossible, and you have an impossible traveler who should be taken care of, for example.
Yeah.
All right. Thank
Great,
you.
Matthias and Julian. May I add a little bit from the SAP end here as well? I know the question was asked more towards when Matthias introduced the Fortinet solutions, but on BTP, of course, we do have a security audit log as well, and as the microservice feeds event information into this security audit log as well. This can be picked up with Enterprise Threat Detection, of course, and then could lead to an alert within Enterprise Threat Detection as well. That could be then again being transferred to FortiSIEM or FortiSOAR to trigger any kind of automated reactions, for example. Right.
Okay, thank you. I can't see additional questions in the chat. However, there was one question that came up prior to this session. And the question was, okay, when, for example, customer is interested to get this combination of FortiSOAR and SAP ETD. So how and where to start?
Yeah, so assuming SAP ETD is already in place, right? Then it's really easy to add FortiSOAR, let's say, side by side to it. So it doesn't disrupt any existing environment or so. So it's actually very easy to deploy FortiSOAR, and the configuration of the connectors is also very easy. And then, just figure out which escalation steps you would like to take and how you as a customer would like to react based on which incidents. So you can, start with some of the playbooks that we ship as part of the solution, and then do you develop and customize these according to your own needs. But really also in addition to FortiSOAR, it is strongly recommended to protect the SAP landscapes with, let's say, modern security based on, for example, intrusion prevention. Also, the entire architecture should ideally be segmented so that threats cannot easily spread across the landscapes. And also, most companies today have users that using web-based applications, and these also need to be specifically protected. So that is really something all customers should implement, but also ensure that specific SAP intrusion prevention signatures are actually enabled. We noticed in our, many communications here that with customers that this is actually mostly not the case. Actually, they don't even know these specific signatures actually exist to keep intruders or threat actors out of the network. And it's a very easy step that should be, everyone should really do that. But that's how you would start, right? Simply start deploying FortiSOAR, configure these playbooks. It's really every SAP Basis person is able to do that. And, also reach out to your network guys and see if they have these SAP signatures implemented, and have they segmented the enterprise landscape. Especially important when moving to the cloud, right? Where many customers believe when I move to the cloud, everything is being taken care of. It's unfortunately not as simple as that. I don't know if anyone has any more input to that nice question, actually.
I would say well answered, Matthias.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think it's great food for thought for those who are in our session today, because it obviously takes a bit of work also to explore which settings are already in place and what is still under-deployed. So thank you for this answer. I currently can't see additional questions in the chat. We have four more minutes for this session. So for those who might have questions, now is the chance for this. Please leverage this time. And as I've already indicated in the chat, I will include the link for downloading the PDF in the description of this video. The description, the video itself will be available on YouTube SAP community channel for your consumption on demand. With this, I hope we have all the necessary information on one place for you. All right. Can't see questions coming in. I assume that either people just need to digest all this information and there might be questions afterwards, but as I've already said, the PDF will be available in the description. With this, I thank you very much, Matthias and Julian from Fortinet, for giving this presentation and the demo. Of course, thank you to Arndt for being so well connected with the colleagues and for showing this role play with different things that one can do. Thank you very much for this, and I hope to have you as a speaker in one of our upcoming sessions in SAP Security webcast series.
Excellent. Thank you, Larissa, and goodbye to everybody. Thank you from my end.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Larissa.
Thank you very much, and I end the stream now.